The ice fields of Vesper stretched endlessly, jagged ridges of frozen rock rising like the teeth of some ancient beast. The planet was a forgotten outpost, a mining colony barely worth mentioning, until the TZR Dominion decided to take it. General Zilrath, clad in iridescent battle armor, watched the holographic display aboard his command vessel with the detached air of a being who had seen countless conquests. The battle should have been over before it began. The TZR, after all, were superior. Their grav tanks hovered effortlessly above the tundra, their shock troops encased in kinetic dispersing shields. Against such power, what could a handful of primitive human soldiers do? The humans, however, had yet to grasp their own insignificance. A desperate defense. From a snow-covered ridge, Captain Elias Carter adjusted his visor and surveyed the enemy formation below. His dark eyes flicked across the shifting terrain, reading patterns, anticipating movements. He knew the odds, slim to none. But if humans had one specialty, it was making impossible odds work in their favor. Well, drawled Sergeant Luis Lu Ortega, checking his rifle, on a scale from routine patrol to absolute disaster, how bad is it? That depends, said Lieutenant Novachin, adjusting the jury-rig energy scanner she cobbled together from salvage parts. Are we counting the part where they have personal shields, orbital support, and superior firepower? Just checking, Lou said, because I like knowing where I stand before we all die. We're not dying, Elias cut in. Not today. A sharp laugh crackled through the comms. Private Tessa Wildcard Kovacs crouched a few meters away, adjusting the stolen TZR grav rifle she'd borrowed during a previous skirmish. You say that like you have a plan, Captain. I do. She arched a brow. Is it stupid? Probably, Nova muttered. Elias ignored them. The TZR were predictable. They always relied on technological superiority over tactics. If they thought a problem could be solved by brute force, they would apply more force until it broke. That left an opening for something less conventional. Nova, he said, can you set up an interference pulse? She frowned. Short range, maybe. Long enough to jam their targeting systems for a few seconds, but it'll fry our comms, too. That's fine, Elias said. We're doing this old school anyway. Lou gave a dramatic sigh. So, stupid plan confirmed. Tessa grinned. I love stupid plans. The ambush. The TZR Vanguard advanced with mechanical precision, their hovercraft gliding over the ice, while squads of battle-augmented warriors spread out to flank any resistance. Their energy weapons glowed faintly in the cold twilight, casting eerie reflections against the frozen ground. They had no idea what was coming. From their ridge, Elias gave the signal. Nova activated the EMP pulse, and instantly, the enemy's HUDs flickered and died. TZR hovercraft lurched, their stabilizers glitching. And then the attack began. Lou, positioned further down the slope, fired first, not at the troops, but at a cluster of ice stalactites overhead. The barrage shattered the formations, sending ton-weight shards crashing down. Several TZR scrambled to escape, but the confusion spread through their ranks. Tessa, ever the daredevil, slid down the ice on her knees, firing wildly with her stolen weapon. Its gravitic round sent enemies careening backward, their own shields unable to adjust to the erratic force. Who? This thing is insane, she shouted. Nova, meanwhile, used the disruption window to plant remote charges along a frozen ridge. When the TZR attempted to regroup, she triggered them, causing a controlled avalanche that buried half their reinforcements. Elias remained focused on the TZR commander on the field, a lieutenant who was clearly struggling to regain control of his soldiers. If there was ever a moment to tip the battle in their favor, this was it. Push forward, Elias shouted, leading the charge. The remaining TZR soldiers, disoriented and frustrated, tried to recalibrate their weapons, but the humans moved too erratically, using cover, terrain, and sheer unpredictability to their advantage. One of the warriors, 8 feet of genetically optimized muscle, lunged at Elias with a plasma blade. The captain dodged at the last second, twisting into a countermove, and drove his combat knife into a joint of the alien's armor. The TZAR staggered, stunned by the sheer audacity of such a primitive attack actually working. "Not so invincible, are you?" Elias muttered, kicking the alien's weapon away. Within minutes, the battlefield was unrecognizable. The TZAR vanguard had collapsed, and the humans, outnumbered, outgunned, and completely underestimated, stood victorious. General Zilratha's realization. Aboard the TZAR command ship, General Zilrath watched in disbelief as his highly trained warriors fell to creatures wielding outdated projectile weapons and improvised tactics. His mandibles clicked in irritation. This was impossible. Humanity was supposed to be an inferior species, unrefined, biologically weak compared to the Dominion. And yet, here they were, using the battlefield itself as a weapon, exploiting every vulnerability, fighting as though the laws of combat did not apply to them. He narrowed his gaze at the screen, watching as one of the humans, a female, reckless and wild, laughingly stole another piece of TZAR technology right off a fallen soldier. They should not be winning, and yet they were. Zilratha's claws clenched against the console. Perhaps humanity was more dangerous than he had assumed. The ruins of Vesper 4's mining colony lay quiet under the aurora-streaked sky. Ice crystals danced in the frigid wind, reflecting the eerie glow of the damaged TZAR hovercraft smoldering in the snow. The humans had won the first skirmish, but the war was far from over. General Zilrath had retreated his forces beyond the horizon, no doubt recalibrating his strategy. The TZAR had never encountered soldiers like this before, soldiers who refused to play by the rules. Elias Carter and his team intended to keep it that way. Survival is an art. "All right," Elias said, crouching near a makeshift fire inside their temporary shelter, a collapsed storage bay with half-buried cargo crates they'd salvaged for supplies. "We have about 2 hours before Zilrath sends another wave." Tessa Kovac sat cross-legged, balancing a stolen TZAR grav rifle on her knee. 2 hours? Plenty of time to make them regret coming back. Lou Ortega glanced up from where he was sketching crude battle plans on a frost-covered crate. "I like your enthusiasm, Kovacs, but last time was luck. They underestimated us. That won't happen again." Nova Chun, busy rewiring a damaged alien drone, frowned. "Then we'll have to outthink them this time. No more head-on fights. We need sabotage, misdirection, and a whole lot of stubborn human ingenuity." Elias nodded, agreed. "We can't win by force, so we'll win by making them think they've already won." He turned to Lou. "Tell me you have something clever." Lou grinned. "Ever hear of the Ghost Army?" Nova sighed. "Is this one of your history lessons?" "More like a blueprint." Lou tapped his makeshift map. During World War II, the Allies tricked the Nazis into thinking a huge army was gathering by using inflatable tanks and fake radio chatter. "We don't need firepower. We need illusion." Elias's eyes gleamed. "So we make them see an army that isn't there?" "Exactly." Nova leaned forward. "I can reprogram some of the colony's old mining drones to project holograms. Make it look like we have reinforcements arriving." Tessa smirked. "And while they panic over our fake army, we hit them where it hurts," Elias said. "The trap is set." An hour later, the TZAR attack force approached, larger, more organized. Their grav tanks floated effortlessly across the frozen plains, flanked by heavily armed shock troops. This time, they weren't taking chances. High above, in his command vessel, General Zilrath observed the battlefield, his mandibles twitching in grim satisfaction. The humans had regrouped, but this was expected. He watched as his forces closed in on their outpost. Then his eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. The human numbers had swelled. What had been a ragtag handful of soldiers was now a full regiment. Dozens of figures moving in the blizzard, their silhouettes distorted by shifting light. Impossible, The Dominion had scanned the planet. No human reinforcements had arrived. So how? His answer came too late. The power of a lie. The holographic army shimmered in the cold air, mining drones projecting shifting forms that mimicked human movement. The TSAR forces hesitated, unsure of whether to advance or hold position. That moment of doubt was all the real humans needed. From a hidden ravine, Elias gave the signal. Nova triggered the explosives. Buried along a natural ice fault, a massive crevasse yawned open beneath the TSAR tanks, swallowing half of them before they could react. Tessa, grinning like a maniac, launched a stolen TSAR pulse grenade into their ranks. Catch! The blast sent a shockwave through the formation, sending soldiers crashing into each other as their shields flickered erratically. Lou, positioned further back, used the TSAR's own communications against them. His hacked frequency flooded their headsets with chaotic human chatter. Orders, laughter, conflicting commands. The enemy formation collapsed under confusion. General Zilrath watched in horror as his elite warriors fell for a trick that was centuries old. A different kind of warfare. The TSAR retreated again, not from superior firepower, but from something they didn't understand. Elias stood on the ridge, watching their forces scatter. They just won another impossible battle. Tessa let out a breathless laugh. I cannot believe that actually worked. Lou smirked. History, Kovacs. It repeats itself. Nova shut down the last of the drones. They won't fall for it twice, she warned. Elias nodded. They won't have to. He turned toward the distant TSAR command vessel, still lingering in the sky. Because next time we take the fight to them, the wind howled through the ice caverns beneath Vesper 4, carrying the distant rumble of TSAR war machines. The battle above had ended hours ago, but the war had not. Elias Carter crouched near the cavern entrance, watching the alien searchlights sweep across the tundra. The TSAR had learned. No more hesitation, no more caution. They were scouring the land with brutal efficiency. The humans had humiliated them twice. Now, the TSAR weren't playing games anymore. When the hunters become the hunted. We lost the surface, Novachin muttered, running diagnostics on her handheld scanner. The TSAR had taken full control, deploying drones, gunships, and suppression fields to ensure no more surprises. They're cutting off our exits, Lou Ortega observed, watching the glowing map projection. TSAR forces were closing in from all directions. They're going to smoke us out. Tessa Kovacs, ever the wild card, cracked her knuckles. Then we make 'em choke on their own smoke. Elias smiled despite himself. As much as I love your enthusiasm, Kovacs, we can't fight our way out. Not this time. Tessa shrugged. Fine. So what's the play? Elias studied the holographic terrain. If they stayed put, they'd be cornered and annihilated. The only option was pushing forward, straight into the heart of the enemy. We steal their command ship, he said. Silence. Lou blinked. I was not expecting that level of stupid. Nova hesitated. Technically, it's possible. Tessa grinned. Now this is my kind of plan. Into the fire. The team moved undercover, navigating the vast ice tunnels toward the enemy encampment. Above, the TSAR tightened their grip, oblivious to the fact that their prey was already inside the net. The TSAR command ship loomed in the distance, a levitating fortress of steel and plasma, surrounded by patrolling soldiers and drone turrets. Nova studied the security field protecting the hangar. If I can splice into their power grid, I can shut down the external sensors for about 60 seconds. Lou gave a low whistle. That's not a long window. Tessa checked her weapons. More than enough time. Elias exhaled. Everything depended on precision. Nova got to work. Sparks danced from the control panel as she hijacked the alien network, fingers moving with the speed of desperation. The moment the shield flickered, they ran. The team sprinted through the hangar, dodging patrols and automated defenses. Every step brought them closer to the bridge, closer to turning the TZR's own might against them. They just had to make it inside. The darkest hour. 50 meters from the entrance, the alarms blared. "They found us!" Lou shouted. TZR warriors descended from all sides. Energy bolts streaked through the air. Nova barely rolled behind cover before a plasma blast scorched the ground where she had stood. Tessa lunged into melee combat, disarming an alien warrior and using his own rifle against the squad. Lou and Elias provided cover fire, taking out turrets and suppressing snipers. They were close, so damn close. Then, the TZR reinforcements arrived. Elite warriors, heavily armored, combat optimized, and immune to their previous tricks. For the first time, Elias felt it, the weight of inevitable defeat. A TZR enforcer slammed into Lou, sending him crashing into a metal console. Tessa was pinned under heavy fire, her stolen weapon sparking from overload. Nova screamed, "We're out of time." Elias knew only one thing. Someone had to stay behind. His hand went to his detonator. The power core was directly below them. If he could trigger an overload, it would buy them the chance they needed. "Tessa, Nova, get Lou inside," Elias ordered. "I'll cover you." "Captain, don't." "That's an order." The team hesitated, then followed his command. As they ran, Elias stood his ground. The TZR warriors advanced, plasma rifles glowing like miniature suns. Elias smiled grimly. He pressed the detonator. The spark of victory. The explosion ripped through the hangar. Flames and debris engulfed the TZR forces, shockwaves shorting out power systems across the ship. In the chaos, Nova, Lou, and Tessa breached the command bridge, eliminating the remaining crew. Alarms wailed. Fire suppression systems failed. The warship lurched violently as gravity generators faltered. Nova hacked the main console with furious speed. Come on, yes!" The command ship's navigation flipped to human control. Lou, dazed but grinning, slumped into a seat. "We actually pulled it off." Tessa turned to Nova. "Where's Elias?" Nova's hands trembled over the controls. The hangar was a firestorm. Tessa's expression hardened. "We go back." Lou exhaled. "You don't even have to ask." End of Section 3, leading into Section 4. Through the smoke and wreckage, a figure emerged. Elias Carter, bloodied, burned, but alive, staggered onto the bridge. Tessa let out a whoop. Nova exhaled in relief. Lou smirked. "You just wanted a dramatic entrance, didn't you?" Elias, coughing, collapsed into the captain's chair. "Shut up and take off." The humans had stolen an entire warship. And now, for the first time, they weren't just fighting to survive. They were taking the war to the TZR. The stolen TZR warship tore through the icy atmosphere of Vesper, for its plasma thrusters roaring against the frozen winds. Inside the bridge, Elias Carter gripped the command chair, still catching his breath. Blood crusted his temple, his uniform scorched from the hangar blast. But he was alive, and against all odds, so was his team. The TZR had no idea what was coming. Breaking the chains. Nova Chun worked frantically at the command console, bypassing TZR encryption as the ship's automated defenses tried to lock them out. "I've got limited access. Engines, shields, and short-range weapons. No hyperdrive. No long-range comms." They must have hardwired control to their flagship. Elias clenched his jaw. "Then we take the fight to them." Lou Ortega exhaled sharply. "You're talking about attacking a fully armed TZR dreadnought with a stolen ship that's barely holding together." Tessa Kovacs loaded a fresh power cell into her rifle. "Sounds like a normal Tuesday to me." Nova threw up her hands. "Even if we get past their defenses, what's the plan?" "We can't win." Elias met her gaze, eyes alight with something dangerous. "We don't have to win. We just have to make sure they lose." The gamble of a lifetime. The TZR flagship loomed ahead, an obsidian leviathan against the stars. the Wrath of Zilrath, its name pulsing across the warship's hull in menacing crimson glyphs. Inside its command chamber, General Zilrath watched his stolen warship approach. His mandibles twitched. These humans should have been eradicated. Instead, they had infiltrated, sabotaged, and now commandeered his own vessel. His subordinates chittered anxiously. General, orders? Zilrath's eyes gleamed with cold fury. Destroy them. TZR turrets locked onto the stolen warship. Defense grids hummed, preparing to tear it apart. Inside, Nova's fingers flew across the console. They're targeting us. Good, Elias murmured. Lou gave him a look. That's a weird response. Tessa cracked her knuckles. I think I like where this is going. Elias smirked. Nova, shut off our shields. Everyone froze. Nova blinked. I'm sorry. You want me to what? Lou coughed. I second the what. Elias's smirk widened. We've seen how the TZR fight. They don't take chances. They go for the cleanest kill. They'll open up with their primary cannon. Something overkill to make sure we're obliterated. Tessa's eyes widened. Oh, I love this plan. Nova paled. I hate this plan. Lou sighed. I barely understand this plan. Elias pointed at the flagship's ventral cannon array. We drift dead in space. Let them charge their big gun. Then we use every ounce of power to dodge at the last second. Lou snapped his fingers. And they blast their own ship instead. Nova's hands shook over the controls. If I screw up, we die. Elias grinned. So, don't screw up. She groaned. I really hate this plan, but she did it anyway. Checkmate. The stolen warship went dark, its shields evaporating, engines cutting out. It drifted forward, a helpless target, right into the kill zone. General Zilrath leaned forward, mandibles parting in triumph. Fire. The wrath of Zilrath's primary cannon ignited. A fusion lance powerful enough to melt a city. A heartbeat before impact. Nova reactivated every thruster at once. The warship lunged sideways. The cannon fired. A titanic explosion erupted as the dreadnought's own blast tore through its ventral decks, igniting fuel lines, rupturing the primary reactor. The flagship buckled from the inside out, decks collapsing, plasma vents bursting like ruptured veins. On board, Zilrath's command chamber shook violently. Emergency sirens shrieked. His warriors screeched in panic. Zilrath staggered. This wasn't possible. This wasn't war. This was chaos. The humans had rewritten the rules. The end and the beginning. The wrath of Zilrath tore itself apart, splitting into molten fragments, its wreckage tumbling toward the frozen surface of Vesper 4. On the stolen warship's bridge, Nova gasped for breath, hands shaking from adrenaline. Did we just... Lou slumped in his seat, exhaling sharply. Oh yeah, we just blew up a flagship. Tessa let out a whoop, punching the air. Somebody buy me a drink. Elias grinned, eyes on the debris field. Not bad for a bunch of nobodies, huh? Nova wiped sweat from her brow. Let's never do that again. Lou chuckled. Oh, come on. What's life without a little reckless insanity? Elias straightened. We're not done yet. The others turned. Tessa frowned. Buddy, we just took out a flagship. What more do you want? Elias turned the ship toward open space. We just proved that the TZR aren't invincible. That means other human survivors might still be out there. Silence. Then Nova nodded. If we could do this, others could too. Lou grinned. Guess we just became a resistance. Tessa loaded her rifle. Guess that makes us the most wanted criminals in the galaxy. Elias smirked. Yeah. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the stars. Let's make that their problem.